Welcome everyone to QB Power Hour. Today is November 30th, 2017, and this is what we learned at QBCONNECT 2017, and then some thought on practice management and workflow with a guest speaker, Laura Redmond. The agenda for today is we'll spend a couple minutes talking about QB Power Hour, CPE process, and sponsors. Then we'll spend most of the time, maybe 50 minutes or so, on what we learned at QuickBooks Connect this year, and we'll leave it for 5 minutes of Q&A. The next episode will be actually next week. So next week will be the next episode, which will be an Arrow Workflow app deep dive. So Laura, we'll talk about it very briefly towards the end of the webinar, and then we'll do a complete deep dive, which will include configuring tasks and all those things. Then afterwards, the next episode was going to be December 14th. There is a small chance that that episode will not happen because both Michelle and I got travel at that time. So if we can't get someone to fill in on that episode for us, we will probably cancel it. So we'll let you know by the 7th what will be. That's why we added another episode in January. I mean in December 7th, so I can at least have something for December. And then we added an episode very early in January, which is going to be advanced topics in QuickBooks Desktop with a guest speaker, Don Brawling. Michelle Long, author of 5 books, co-host of this webinar of the Accounting Beacon, and the creator and administrator of the LinkedIn group called Successful QuickBooks Consultants. She's traveling today, so she's not here with us. She's one of the co-hosts. And myself, my name is Hector Garcia. Live and work in Miami, Florida. Teach QuickBooks in my own classroom. There's my email, there's my Twitter if you want to reach at me. CPE, you must attend the entire webinar live. You must be at least 50 minutes logged in, and you have to answer at least 3 polling questions. So we're going to answer 4. We're going to ask 4 or 5, and you have to have at least 3 in. And then we'll email the certificates within 3 weeks. Right now, we are only behind 1 certificate, which is a November 2nd certificate. So I'm going to get that done early next week and this week's as well. But we're cut up all the way up to October 19th for CPEs. And some of our episodes are ACE. I mean, they're available for ACE. Today's in particular is not an ACE episode or ACE episode. If you have to ask what ACE is, then probably something doesn't relate to you. Upcoming recommended live events, we're going to have Scaling New Heights in Atlanta, Georgia, June 17th to the 20th. The theme of the show is Tame the Machines. Very excited about that. WooderEvents.com. And of course, QuickBooks Connect 2018 in San Jose, California. November 5th to 7th, QuickBooksConnect.com for that. Now, there's a exciting new announcement. We may have teased at it before a couple of weeks ago. Michelle Long and Heather Satterlee, one of my 2 favorite people in the world, are partnering up to create kind of a spin-off of QB Power Hour. The idea behind it is that the webinar will be solely about QuickBooks Online and apps to solve particular problems that QuickBooks Online can't do on its own, which is something that we kind of do, throughout QB Power Hour. It is one of the things that we kind of do, but it's not 100% of our focus. But this new webinar series will be 100% focused on that. And also, it's been talking that they will be using a different platform, Zoom, not GoToWebinars, by Michelle Long and Heather Satterlee. Dates are coming soon. It will likely be January of 2018, but if something comes in earlier, we will go ahead and let you know earlier. So for sure. Now let's talk about some of the special episodes or topics in which I was involved during QB Connect, which I did a live Power Hour at QB Connect at 3 p.m. not 12 p.m. Eastern. So it was a little bit of a different time frame. We still had like 350 people log in, so there was quite a few people watching it live. And I was trying to do sort of a non-CPE kind of an episode where I cover some of the stuff I covered at QuickBooks Connect, not QuickBooks related. It's called YouTube is a New Business Card. There's the link. If you download the slides in the handout section, you can watch that episode, and it's in my YouTube channel. Then also, I was interviewed. It was like a 10-minute interview at QBCONNECT about kind of like to summarize my session, and and that's the interview that was recorded. So that's good for you to have. And also, one of the audience members, which I don't know who it is, recorded my session with their phone and posted it to YouTube. And I can't figure out who it is, but I thank that person for doing it. so, um, so the video's there, so you can click on that and watch it. It's obviously something recorded from a phone, so it's not as good as an organized webinar that's designed for webinars, but you can watch the video, and if you missed the live session, you can see it there. Okay, so about our sponsors, we'd like to thank T-Sheets, number one rated app in apps.com. Create, manage, and approve your timesheets from any device. Free account for accounting professionals. Just go to tsheets.com/pros. Everybody in this webinar should have at least their own free account they use for their own firm, so they can test it and recommend it to their clients. Our sponsors, Aero Workflow. It's the only workflow manager created by a QuickBooks Pro advisor or a group of QuickBooks Pro advisors for pro advisors, and is fully integrated with QuickBooks Online. It's aeroworkflow.com, and one of the partners, it's here today. So we'll have Laura talk about that. And then our third sponsor is HubTalk, most popular document aggregator for QuickBooks Power users. It downloads bills and check images automatically, pretty much. Okay, so let's talk about the new features that were kind of announced at QBCONNECT and are available now, which is our QB Assistant and price rules. So let me start with kind of setting up the premise. QB Assistant is a chat bot that will interact with the QuickBooks user in order to get information. So one of the biggest feedbacks that customers had given into it, I don't think so much accountants. I think customers. It's hard for me to find information. It's hard for me to find what I'm looking for inside QuickBooks. So Intuit is trying to solve for that problem, possibly through doing a chat box where people search natural word. I mean, with natural wording, ask QuickBooks something. So I'll show you a demonstration of that in a second. And then the other feature that's out now, which is amazing, is called price rules, and that it's as a beta, but I mean both as betas, but it's working, it's functional, and it's actually awesome. So I'll do a demonstration of that. Let me switch my screen real quick. Okay, now you should be seeing my QuickBooks Online screen. Okay, so let's start with price rules. So I'm going to click on the gear menu, and then account and settings, and then I believe it's under sales, and then it says turn on price rules. So when you click on that, you click on this check mark. I'm sure some of you have been playing with it already, right? So we click save, and that basically turns on the new beta price rules feature. And the way that works is, I'm going to create an item. So I'm going to go to products and services. Okay, I already got a couple of items here. Okay, and let's say, for example, this one, let's call this one kitchen sink. Okay, and let's say the kitchen sink sells normally for $500, and we'll put this one under, I don't know if there's a sales account. Let's leave it there. Sale product income. Okay, so I have a product, that's $500. That's how much it costs normally. Now we can create price rules which modifies that price based on multiple conditions. So when I click here under more, and it's hidden under more, not that excited that it's kind of hidden in there, but that's where it is. We go to price rules, we go to create rule, and then we give it a rule name. So let's call this one wholesale. Okay, we can also give it start and ending dates, assuming that these happen to be seasonal promotions. Then we select the customer, so we can click select individually, and we can say, okay, which customers actually apply to this rule. So I can click on add customer, and I can say Jose gets this rule, and I'm going to click on customer, and also customer B gets this rule. So only these two customers apply to this rule. Okay. Then we come in here and select which products apply to this price rule. So let's say for now, it's only going to be one product. So I'm going to click on add product, and then we will call this one kitchen sink. And then it says, okay, so under the rule name wholesale, what would the new price be? So at this point, I can just manually put $400. Or if I happen to have a lot of items, I can just do, percentage decrease by 25%, right? Whatever I want. And QuickBooks will do the calculation for me. Okay, so you can manually change the dollar amount, or you can select the percentage. So then we click save and close. And now when I go create an invoice, I'm going to create an invoice. I'm going to create an invoice for customer A, not the ones that apply to the rule, just to kind of show you that. And I'll select the product and service, which was kitchen sink. And that is $500. That's the price. That's what it's supposed to be. Okay. So I'm going to click on the drop down, and it says that's the only price, right? There's no rules that apply to that. Okay. I'm going to do save and close. And then I'm going to do the same invoice to a different customer, the one that applies to the rules, to Jose, for example. And then I'm going to come down here and select kitchen sink. And notice his price is $375. I mean, for QuickBooks Online to do this, that's pretty awesome. Just because this is what QuickBooks Desktop did for a very long time. One of those things that we wanted from one of those little features that QuickBooks Desktop has that Online doesn't have, and now QuickBooks Online has them. So it's awesome. And what's even better is that it works similar to the QuickBooks Enterprise price rules feature, which is actually even more advanced. So it's actually really neat that we get this in QuickBooks Online. I'm not sure if it's only available in Plus or Essentials. I haven't actually tested it just because all my accounts are in Plus. So I can't really tell you, answer that, because I know somebody's asking me which one that has it. I'm going to make the assumption that Essentials and Plus has it, but it may just be a Plus thing. So I'm just not ready to answer that. So that's price rules, which, by the way, I think is absolutely fantastic. Let me switch over back to my PowerPoint. And let me see, switch back to the PowerPoint. There we go. Okay, then we have QB Assistant. Okay, let's go back to QuickBooks again. All right, so QB Assistant is this little sort of chat looking thing in the right. Once you click in it, it says QB Assistant, right? And then you can type something like, who owes me money? Like, I may not have anything on my balance sheet. All right. Oh, there it is. So who owes me money is customer balances. Good question. Customer wholesaler owes you $636. Okay, and you can ask questions like, how much did I make last month? Okay, well, I don't have any invoices in this QuickBooks file last month, but that's the type of stuff that is there. So what Intuit is doing, and this is what they were hinting at, that they're reading what people are asking. Okay, so what did I spend my money on? Like, I haven't really tested these. I don't know which questions work. Okay, well, hey, let me add an expense. This is a sample file, but let me add an expense for this month. Let me just click on this thing and change the date to this month. Okay, we'll start with that. Let me just hit save. Okay, so I got at least one expenditure this month, and then let me ask the question again. What did I spend my money on? And it should have one thing in there for like $6. So what are my expenses? Still a beta. I haven't even tested this thing. I don't see much of. For whatever reason, I don't know how it comes up with those numbers, but that's kind of the logic behind it, is that this is going to to translate, and it's still beta, so it's just say beta up here. And when they demoed it at QBCONNECT, it magically worked a lot better than what is working now. But the idea is that people ask natural questions, and for the income kind of work, how much did I make last month or something like that. I don't know why it's showing zeros, but the idea is that people type those questions and it answers it. But the true the beauty of it was it's not typing the questions, it's asking the questions. So the web-based version, you have to type the questions, but on the phone version, so in the phone app, you can actually talk to it. It will do voice recognition, and then it will translate that into a question. So I'll ask you to test it in your file. This is not. Let me. I can try using maybe a file that has data on it. Let me try this one. Let me see a real file that has data. It's actually a client file. So where's my Q? This one doesn't have the QB Assistant on it. So let me add QuickBooks Labs, and let me add QB Assistant. Click done. By the way, this is how you add it. So I should have added that. So it's in the QuickBooks Labs. So and then I put here, how much did I make last month? Let me see if this gives me an answer. Okay. Well, it's beta. This technically should be working. So I don't know why it's showing a bunch of zeros. So maybe they're still just trying to test this thing. But just, they didn't say it was fully functional, but it's there. So what I would love for you to do is start testing it, see how it goes. Also test it on the phone app, because the phone app, you can talk to it as well. So again, it's in QuickBooks Labs. So you have to, again, you go to Gear, QuickBooks Labs, and it's going to be down here under QB Assistant. So that's how you turn it on. So those are the two features that you can access now. Okay, those you can access now. Now there's a few that are coming. So let me switch to the PowerPoint, and these are the ones that are coming. So you should see this in December or January. One is an automated multi-state sales tax system that would actually rival Avalara and Davo and other QBO enabled sales tax apps, and it will be a paid, so it will be something extra you pay, sort of like a payroll subscription. You will also pay for a sales tax subscriptions, and it will search sales tax rates in every single county in the United States and automatically charge the correct sales tax based on which states you have nexus in that you actually have to report in, and it will also prepare the documents to electronically. That's the idea. I haven't seen it work yet because it hasn't come out yet. Electronically file those sales tax returns. So that's a huge thing. Intuit actually bought some sort of company that was doing this. They bought them out, and they implemented the technology with it. Now Avalara, it's a much more, it's a huge, very complex app and company. So I don't think they'll ever replace what Avalara possibly can do, but it's interesting to see Intuit getting into that marketplace. Now they have also announced industry insights inside QBO. Basically what they said is, with 2 million QuickBooks Online users, Intuit has great metadata, so they can actually compare revenues, income, expenses against other companies of the same industry, and it can give you a report that says, hey, this is where you stand against your peers, and whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that may possibly be something that is useful to someone. Okay. Now the fully functionality of the sales tax system or the QB Assistant, it's in beta. So, and I think some folks already have access to the new multi-state system, but it's beta, so it was by invitation only. So I think most of these things are probably going to be in like around January, because it sounds like January is going to be a pretty big release month. Now, QuickBooks Capital, that's a huge announcement that Intuit made. Intuit used to partner with third-party banks and allow third-party banks to pull QuickBooks data, like Cabbage was one of the big ones, to do the underwriting for the purpose of lending to small businesses. Now, QuickBooks is doing this in-house. Like literally, QuickBooks has an affiliated or wholly owned or whatever financial institution that's doing direct lending to their customers. And QuickBooks believes or Intuit believes that they have much better insights into the customers that traditional banks do. They know what they spend on, how often they get paid. I mean, they know all this stuff that banks, as much as they try to collect the information, they're just not going to get it with full accuracy. So Intuit is getting into the finance business, into the banking business, and they promise they're going to. The value proposition is, fully funded within 2 days, $25,000, up to $25,000, and the loan gets managed within QuickBooks Online, and the interest and all that stuff gets booked into the right places. So that's going to be a pretty interesting thing once we see it coming. That's announced features, not there yet. Another thing that I thought it was interesting was they are now adding a tax expert tag or designation in the Find Pro Advisor website. Now, the details on how you get that, not 100% sure. They said that if you decide to be a tax expert, you can't be like some other type of expert. So you do have to sacrifice something to be able to get that designation. But it feels like it's only going to be for the folks that are using Intuit Tax Online or PTO, ProConnect Tax Online. So that would be an interesting one to see coming once you see it. And the last one that I got the most excited about, and I know some people are beta testing it. I requested to be in the beta test, but I'm not in there yet, so I can't demo it for you. It's finally progress invoicing coming to QBO. And you know, before I saw so before before I saw price rules beta, I thought, yeah, right, progress invoicing, you're gonna screw it up. But price rules was so smooth, so great, that I'm actually kind of excited about progress invoicing. Like I'm thinking that maybe um, uh, that the progress invoicing will be a good thing. So, other things that are worth mentioning is QuickBooks Desktop or the desktop products. So Quick QuickBooks Point of Sale 2018 came out earlier this month, which means that Intuit is kind of rethinking about completely not ditching desktop because they're sort of recommitting to a POS, a point of sale system, and they normally get updated every 3 years or so. So so that's actually sort of a really important thing. The other piece is QuickBooks 2019 alpha beta testing invitations were done there. So some folks were saying, hey, would you like to be part of the beta? So that already tells me that there is a 2019 coming out, which is good because every year I'm sort of like, hyperventilating that they're going to kill desktop. And and they're not, or at least not yet. And also, there was a couple of reps from the enterprise team that were telling folks. I already knew about this, but I didn't want to mention it because I wasn't sure if it's an NDA problem because I'm a beta tester for it. But they announced that there are some improvements to their mobile app warehouse management feature that are probably coming around January for QuickBooks Enterprise 2018. So that's also a really sort of like a good thing in terms of, hey, they're not killing desktop completely. Now, some of the live sessions that were at QBCONNECT that were recorded and posted in Facebook were Joe Woodard's automating processes session, Ron Baker's cost accounting rest in peace session, and Ainsley Damery, a person that hadn't met until then, but I was very impressed with the content, the stuff that he had to offer. Is there. So let me show you what that looks like real quick, just so you can get an idea of that. Okay, I'm switching to. So this is a Joe Wooder session, and it's really high quality stuff. And he kind of goes through, his automating processes thing. It's about an hour, totally worth it to watch. There's Ron Baker's hilarious session about cost cost accounting. I don't know why that's like came up. Cost accounting and why cost accounting is dead, and why when we do cost accounting we're kind of thinking things in the wrong place. And then how to double your profits in 5 steps. Fascinating session. Just talks about being an advisor and kind of how to become an advisor and the type of questions that you ask. So those 3 sessions, uh, great sessions. I'm actually really glad that they recorded them. I heard they recorded others, but I haven't seen them. So these are the three that I've seen. So Joe Wooder's session, just to give you a quick, was about how to stay one step ahead of what he calls the machines, which is all these software and systems that are kind of doing the work for us and put our profession at risk, quote unquote. Ron Baker's session was really about rethinking cost accounting and thinking more of, cash flow and operation. So he recommended his three books: Profits Beyond Measure, Lies, Damn Lies, and Cost Accounting, and The Goal. And I agree. I read all those three books. They're great. So, and then he talks about the specific book, Lies, Damn Lies, and Cost Accounting, and he kind of breaks down why cost accounting it's a bad. And if for you guys that don't know cost accounting is when you take all the overhead and you divide it by job, and then you try to figure out what your profit by job is based on that cost accounting. It's just not right. It's just wrong. Or sometimes not by job, by product. If you're an inventory manufacturer. So that's kind of like what his session was. And Ainsley Damery's session was mostly about what mistake business owners make. He goes through seven and a half of them, and then the five steps for a consultant or an advisor to help the client succeed. And in one or two of them is the bookkeeping and QuickBooks and the apps. There's a whole bunch of other things like having quarterly meetings, about really executing, about planning, about strategic meeting, all those things. So it was one slide that I'm trying to kind of illustrate the whole session, but you have to watch the 1 hour session. Now the other really awesome resource, especially if you did not attend the conference, I'm going to switch back to here. It's this one. This particular page contains the PowerPoint presentations of every single one of the sessions. So every presentation that was taught, the PowerPoint presentation is here. Now, that doesn't always tell you everything, but if you at least go through it, I think you'll get something out of it. So all the presentations are posted in that link. So again, let me go back to these are the links for Facebook. And I'm not I don't want you to like sit there and type them or try to take a picture of it or whatever. Just go to download the slides in the handout section, and they'll be there. I'll also send an email at the end with all these links. And then this is the long link, which again, I don't expect you to type it. Download the slides and get it from there with all the slides. Now there's few videos that I saw. There's two pre-recorded sessions to QBCONNECT that are not accounting related. One was How to Grow to a Million by Julie Gordon White, and there's the video for it. They're like about 30 minutes long. And How to Successfully Curate a Great Online Presentation. There's that one. There's also great videos to watch. So I mean, this whole QB Power Hour has been about other resources. So I apologize for that. It's just like what I learned at QBCONNECT. It's just way too much. So I can't just do everything. I kind of have to give you the resources. Now I want to make one quick announcement, and I usually don't do this. I usually don't sell. I've never sold anything of my own to QB Power Hour folks, and this is the first time I do this ever. Which is tomorrow. I have a special webinar that I'm doing with Seth David, which is called Introduction to Video Marketing for Accountants, and it's $250. It's 3 hours long, or 2.5 hours long, and it'll basically show you how to do video editing, YouTube, how to market via videos. It's kind of the secret sauce of what I've done in the last 3 to 4 years. So if you're interested in that, just go to videomarketingforaccountants.com. That's as much selling as I will do. And it will be recorded, and anyone that pays for it will have access to the recording. Okay, so let me switch it over to Laura, who's going to talk about kind of her take on workflow. So let me make her the presenter. And Laura, if you want to turn on your webcam while you talk, that's okay. And as soon as I get Laura on the line, I'll introduce her.
Hey.
Hey, Laura, how are you?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Let me run a quick polling question just to get a quick polling question for now. And this is, again, half an hour of just other resources. So I know I understand this is a little bit different, but what I learned at QuickBooks Connect cannot be summarized in an hour or 30 minutes. So I just wanted to kind of teach you on them and give you those resources for that. So let me do this quick polling question, Laura, if you don't mind, and then we'll go to your session. And as soon as this is done, I'll introduce you formally, and we'll do your session. Um, your portion of it. Okay, we have about 85% of the votes. I like to get to 90 just because this is a polling question. Okay, we got 87% of the votes. I'll ask you guys, if you want your CPE, please answer the polling question. All right, let me close that polling question. Okay, perfect. So Laura, let me introduce Laura. Laura Redmond is one of the partners, owners, founders, co-founders, whatever's wrong with my webcam. Sorry, whatever it happens to be, of a company called Arrow Workflow, which is also a practicing pro advisor, QuickBooks consultant, and also somehow runs an accounting, consulting firm and does national training for Intuit. So I don't know if or when she sleeps. Laura, you went to QB Connect, so I would love for you to
Yes.
just give me a quick 5-minute Reader's Digest version or something that you learned at QB Connect that maybe I haven't mentioned before.
That was excellent for me. I got to play a number of roles. I taught a class called Intentional Firm, and we also had Arrow's booth there, so I got to talk to a lot of accountants about how they're running their firm and delegating and growing their firms. And then I saw some really great sessions. I especially enjoyed, did you see the panel led by Joe Woodard that had a bunch of people, including Deb Kilsheimer? They were amazing. And Jason Blummer's session on marketing, Darren Root's session on the modern firm. So for any of you that have that link that Hector gave you, those are some really good PowerPoints to download.
Okay, and let's talk about one of the which I didn't mention purposely, so we can mention it now. One of the biggest initiatives that we've heard, Intuit is having for accountants. It's something that Intuit does a lot of these sort of like phrases that they're like, they're anthems. We call the ethos of what they do. They're calling it the one place. So Intuit, they think that they're gonna get accountants to, or what they hope is that they're gonna get accountants to stay within QuickBooks Online for all of what they do, right? Customer communications, accounting, workflow management. So do you want to talk about that first before we jump into Arrow Workflow? You want to talk about like that work app? Yeah.
Yeah, one of the great things about Intuit in recent years is their dedication to creating, they call it a platform for all of us to do business. And that may be our clients that, that are running their different businesses, but also for we as accounting firms. Intuit sees us also as running businesses. And so they're trying to give us as many tools as possible right there where we are logged into QuickBooks Online. So, and that, if you're an accounting professional, you're probably familiar with that QuickBooks Online Accountant, which is that central place we can log in that gives us tools to run our firm. And from there, we can jump into each one of our clients' QBO companies. But I'll show it here. I've got it up here. When you log into QuickBooks Online Accountant, you'll actually land here on your clients page and see a list of all your clients, and there's a bunch to learn about here. If anyone is not familiar with this, certainly go take the QuickBooks Online certification. and it'll teach you all about this, but I'm going to come down on the left navigation bar to the work tab here, and that takes me to this great workflow tool, which will allow you to start specifying what work you need to do and delegating it to your staff. And then it gives you this, once you set up the work that you're going to do for your clients or for your firm. Remember that a lot of the work we do is marketing for our own firm, or other tasks that have to do with our own business. So once you kind of spell out the work that you want to do, you can come here and view it. You can see these 4 columns are showing you all the tasks that are due today, or this week, or next week, or the next 30 days. And there are some tools up here where you can further filter that. You may just want to see all the work that's due for one of your particular clients, or you may want to see everybody. You can also filter by all the work that's just been assigned to myself or one of your other colleagues. And then you can also filter by the different types of work, whether it's just a simple task or a project which groups a bunch of tasks together, or a request. So on each of these, you can either create a new one, or I'll just click in and show you one. Here you can define what the task is that you're going to do, and within that you can create several. Let's see if we have one that has some additional tasks defined inside of it. You can also, if you've set up some work you're going to do and then you want to use that for another client, there's this option to duplicate. So you would come in and edit a project or task that you've already set up for another client and just click duplicate, and then it'll make a new one, and then you put the name of that new project and pick the client that's for. I'm just going to X out of that. And say don't save, but the duplicate button is there. And also another option that's available in here is that you can set these to repeat. And so that's nice, because some of the work that we do, we perform it on a monthly or a weekly basis, right?
And that's
so
new, right?
some great tools in there.
Wasn't the recurring factor? Is that they added that afterwards, right?
That just launched recently, right? That's new. And then lastly, I just want to hit up that another type of work we have to do is to get information from our clients and request things. Sometimes we have to request, say, bank statements. Although I have to say, we use HubTalk in my firm, so we don't have to request those. HubTalk is happily fetching those for us. But, lots of things you have to ask your client. And so there's another tool in here called a client request. And it kind of even acts like an email, but you can define what documents you want from them. And then you can also say whether to notify the client via email or not. But whatever you request in here, you can put the body of the message similar to an email, but then you can also define which documents you want. So let's say you wanted to ask them for the truth in lending disclosure on some asset they just purchased, or whatever it is. You can type that in here, and then they'll either get a message or not, but at least when they go into QBO, for their business is QBO, there's an accountant tab on the left. They can click and see all the requests from you, and each of the documents you've asked them for will have a link that will let you upload, that will let them upload whatever you requested. And so it's a great way to collaborate with your clients on getting documents. Pretty cool. Also, real quick, I'll show you, there's a different view. Some people like these cards and tiles, and some people may prefer a list view. So you can toggle between the two. Oh, and that just brought up another thing to remember, is there's this switch to show tasks that are due that are automatically generated from QuickBooks. So if you have payroll running inside one of your clients' QBO companies, you have QBO payroll that you're subscribed to, or that your client is subscribed to, that will automatically create tasks here on your list that reminding you to run payroll or pay taxes or things like that. So that's nice. Any other questions about that?
Yeah, one of the questions is you can add non-QBO clients to this as well, right? Or it's only for QBO clients?
Correct. All of QBOA, if I go back to clients here, I can add a client. I don't have to create a QBO company for them or have one linked, I could have a client that's on desktop, for example, and I could add them as a client, and I can track information. Like if I drill into, you see this client does not have a QB icon. The QB icon means that there's a QBO company that you can jump into from here. But let's say I have a company, there are a couple things I can do in QBOA where I may want to add them even if they're not on QBO. Because when you drill into one of your clients' names here in QBOA, I'm not in QBO. I would have had to click the QB icon to get into QBO. If I click their name, I can track things, notes about them, when their peak season is, you know, that sort of information. And you can pen notes so that they stay at the top. If it is connected to QBO, there is a bunch of information that comes up here. But likewise, you could, even though it's not connected to QBO, you could then assign work to you and your staff to go do the work in their QuickBooks desktop file.
That's good. And Laura, without trying to be as objective as possible, because like I said, you are a partner in a workflow app. I don't want to say that competes with this, but that it was built before this was even built, and it was there to solve a lot more of the problems that this is trying to solve. I mean, this is a very simplified version of a workflow. What would you say are currently the biggest limitations of the work app in QBOA?
Well, there are, I mean, people organize in different ways. You definitely want to try things, solutions, and find the one that works best for you. I'll show you today, and next week we'll do a deeper dive, some of the types of features that we've built into Arrow that our users have asked for years. So for example, we have a library where you can pull in some of the step-by-step instructions for how to do some of the work that many of us are commonly already doing in popular apps for accountants, such as everything from QuickBooks Online or desktop to HubTalk, Expensify, Bill.com. So we've got that Arrow library over there, and we've got also a bunch of features. For example, Arrow integrates fully with Gmail or Office 365. So you can hook that up to your email account and have your email, not your spam, but the email that Arrow recognizes is an email from an email address that you have set up with one of your clients or one of your partners. Those emails can come into your workflow, and I'll show you Arrow in a minute. But what that allows us to do is, how much time do we spend over in our email? That's the work, and we're rarely, running the clock on that, or we're just kind of thinking, oh, I've got to do this list of work, and I've got to check emails because they're constantly coming in with other work on them. So it kind of pulls that together, and also integrates with your calendar. So any calendar events, appointments you have in Gmail or Office 365 can integrate into Arrow so that those really stay in sync. So just some really other features like that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, if you could show us Arrow so we can kind of know where you're coming with it.
So Arrow, yeah. Arrow is, and we'll go into this more next week for anyone interested, but just to kind of show you, we have a bunch of tools in Arrow where you can set up and define your knowledge capital, which is how you've decided your firm is going to run. You have to be really proactive and intentional about your firm, and define what services you're going to sell to clients and what things you don't do. So when you define your services, and furthermore, how you're going to do those services, what apps you're going to use, what steps you're going to take, how you do things here in your firm. When you define that, we have tools for all of that, for procedures and checklists, and you can set those up as templates. So when you have a new client, you just grab, let's say you're going to do 3 of your services for them. Now, 3 services may be like pay bills, reconcile the books, and whatever the third one is. That doesn't necessarily mean there are only 3 checklists. You might have like 10 checklists connected to that. Payroll, for example, is actually a perfect example of there's not just one checklist, because you have a checklist on when you have to run paychecks. You have a different checklist for what steps you take to submit payroll taxes or file the forms. So anyway, just imagine that you sign a new client, you grab your already defined checklist of this is how we do this work, and assign it to that new client and delegate it to staff. And this is a great way for you to start being able to delegate, which is going to allow your business to grow. Any of those feelings, you were showing me was it Ainsley, I think, that I saw a slide there earlier where it was saying that people make a mistake that when they're trying to do everything, right? This really will help you delegate. And also with the separation of duties, you can give work to different staff as you grow. Anyway, we have tools inside of Arrow. I just want to show you quickly today, though, what it looks like once you've assigned that work to someone. And here I am logged into this demo account as Robert. Robert shows up for the day and he knows exactly what's expected of him. You've already hired him. You've already determined Robert's your guy. He means well. He wants to work. He doesn't need to be micromanaged. And the more we're working, in different places remotely, you can't even really look over at someone's desk and see how much work they have going on and where they are with it anyway. So it's very helpful when you can assign staff their tasks so they know what's expected of them, and then let them run with it, and then you can watch that progress. So here I'm just showing you an example of Robert's list. This is what he's expected to do for the day. It's very clear to him. Let's say that he's going to come in and do this task to reconcile a bank account. So he clicks on this one and he can just start going. Now here he had already done some of the steps. He can keep going with this, but more than the checklist, he's also got other resources. And one of Arrow's big purposes is to, define the work you do and distribute it very efficiently to your staff so that you can grow and be intentional about your profit for the firm. Because let me just remind us all that profit's not a bad word, right? We're working with our clients on it, but same for our firm. Profit's very important because it helps you run a healthy firm, and that spills over to your clients. You can service them better, and to your staff. So here we've got resources, everything from links to go straight to the website where you're going to do that work. This one's taking us to QBO, or another link that may show us the procedure guide on how to do that line item. So there you saw me clicking on a row that says choose the account to reconcile. Well, imagine if you have a new staff, or imagine if this task, the person that normally does it is out sick today and you have to reassign it to someone else in your office. You want to have all your procedures lined up. I'll talk about this more last week, but you also want to be able to have it at the fingertips of the person doing the work. So links there, and then at the bottom I've got a bunch more resources, including the vault, which is where you can store all of your passwords for your clients, and they show up right at your staff's fingertips when they need them. Lots of security level control on that important information. So any questions?
Can I say something about passwords though? Because I know that's a good resource to have. But if you're gonna have clients' passwords for their banks and credit cards, I think I would probably recommend, I mean, if that's the only solution you have, that's great. But I recommend definitely using a solution like HubTalk, where the client themselves puts the username and password in there and you don't have to have it. I don't know, what do you think about that?
I talk to firms that do different ways. In our firm, we have all of our clients are required at engagement to give us a read-only access, not full access, but read-only access to their bank and credit card, because we have to manage that connection in QBO to the bank feed and in HubDoc, because sometimes it can get disconnected and we can't get in touch with the client and they don't get around to connecting it. So that's just my firm though. We keep those passwords. And then we also will have passwords to their AT&T account, for example, to grab a bill that we have to grab every month. Or also, other than passwords, we keep information like their tax ID number, what their capitalization threshold is, information like that. And so we keep all that here in the vault.
Okay, and one of the biggest things that people ask about is the library, the resource library. What's the deal with this resource library?
What's the deal with this library? So here's our Arrow library, and we have templates, which are like these checklists, and then we've got library procedures. So all of these are ready for you to use as a firm, and you can just grab a checklist out of the library. So I'll go to the library, and actually let's look for that one. I'm going to do a search, reconcile, bank reconciliation. Let's say you wanted to do a bank reconciliation for a QuickBooks desktop client. or a QuickBooks Online client. There are lots of these. I did a search for reconcile, so we're only seeing search results for the word reconcile. But you can come in here, and there are also some for like Bill.com and HubDoc and other Expensify, some of these popular apps, and you can just you can view what the checklist is going to look like. Here's the view mode. You can see what all the procedures are written out for you. So if you're doing the kind of work that many of us are doing, you may, and you find, I don't have time to write this all up, then certainly use anything in the Arrow library. And we have some great experts who create and update the library. You know, these apps change, right? With SaaS software, they get updated. So we update all of that for you in the library. Now, when you come to, I clicked view to view that checklist. Oops, I went out too far. I clicked view. From here, once you view and look at the checklist and you say, yeah, I want to do it exactly that way, then you can grab it and either set it up as recurring and say, here's my client, I'm going to do it once a week, and I'm going to assign it to my staff person, Robert. You can assign it right here, or you can say, you know what, I kind of like that, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently, but I want to copy most of what Arrow has in the library. So then you can create a clone. And when you clone it, any updates we make to the library checklist won't be updated for yours. You're going to kind of fork and take it over from there, but it allows you to customize it and use what's already kind of created. So, and the other thing in the library is all those procedures. I was just showing you, some of them were linked to the checklist I was just showing you, but all of these procedures are created and updated for you. So you could even if you create your own checklist of how you're going to do something in your firm, but you don't want to write up the full procedure, then certainly feel free to use our procedures.
Let me run a quick polling question, Laura, while the questions come in.
Okay.
This is the fourth polling question we're done. We'll do 2 at the end. That way we'll get a total of 5 out. So that gives you plenty of chances to do that. So let's talk about some of the questions. So somebody says, is there an extra charge for the content library or the canned procedures library?
There is a premium library. So
okay.
All Arrow customers get Arrow library. Everybody who has Arrow has the library. And everything we could find from all of the like QuickBooks Online certification, QuickBooks Desktop certification, any of that general known knowledge we've put into the library. And then the premium library has like some of the specialty apps, for example. So you'll find Bill.com, lots of Bill.com, Expensify, Notify, and for any of you who are real experts in a certain niche and find where we're missing a checklist or procedure that you would like to see in Arrow, we also have an Arrow Library Author Program, which lets you become an author. Your name goes on there in the library. You keep it up to date. So that's always a good, and then other people can see you and learn from you and know you as an expert in that field.
Okay, now this is more a question, a comment. Somebody says the vault. I guess I don't know what you call it. The vault, is that the password vault? The vault is the reason why I went with Arrow over Jetpack Workflow. So that's a compliment.
And that vault has been in since the very earliest. We built Arrow in 2010, and it's always been there. I mean, it's one of the things that's a bottleneck. I would have staff that they want to do everything wonderfully, and then they'd wait stuck because they needed some information from me that wasn't right there at their fingertips. So that vault is really represents one of the greatest resources of information that you can give your staff so they can get things done well.
Okay, I'm gonna close the polling question and do one more polling question, which is, are you interested in Arrow workflow? And we're really not gonna do anything with this information. You're not gonna get an email. It's just, we'd like to just know what the general feeling is towards it, just so Laura can see how good she did in a 10-minute presentation. She didn't have that much time to talk about it, but there is a deep dive next week. Will it be you, Laura, or Sarah, who will be doing the deep dive?
Yeah, no, I'll be doing it next week.
Right, so next week, you'll be showing us key things. How do we take a canned procedure, maybe modify it a little bit to our own needs, right? How does it integrate with QuickBooks Online? Like, what data comes in and why would you want to integrate it, that sort of thing. I
Yep.
think some of the things, those are some of the things that probably people would want to
And
learn.
in between now and then, I'm going to run to Toronto for QuickBooks Connect
Oh
Canada
wow, somehow, right?
somehow.
Somehow, yeah. And does Arrow work integrate with other apps like T-Sheets? And by the way, hold on, let me make a quick announcement. I literally just got an email from Intuit, and they gave me access to the progress invoicing beta
They heard you.
in QuickBooks Online, so I can demo it now. So we're gonna go off an extra 5-10 minutes to kind
Nice.
of talk about it, do the first impressions. Laura, if you want to see it, if you've never seen it
Yes,
before, you ever
I
seen
want
it
to see.
before?
Let me see what you're saying.
Progress invoicing for QuickBooks Online. Anyway, that's
I'll
okay.
watch.
That's okay. All right, so this is the last polling question we're running. I just want to get to about 90%. The Arrow workflow deep dive is next week. You don't have to sign up for anything. It's uh, it's going to it's going to be a regular Power Hour episode. You get the notification for it. It will be December 7th at 12 p.m. So you don't have to do anything extra. You will get on that webinar no matter what. It's a Power Hour sponsor episode. Okay. All right. So one comment, Laura, real quick. Somebody says, and I do want you to address this because this is a really important piece. Somebody says, I found their workflow complicated to get started. Okay. Now, all workflow apps would be like this. Any big CRM app, any big workflow app is going to require setup because no software manufacturer can ever get inside your head and know how do you work, how do you function, what's important to you, what do you track, how do your people work, what do you want to get done, right? I mean, do you have any answers to that? Because obviously you were one of the early adopters of method CRM, right? Arrow Workflow was built in Method CRM originally, correct?
Correct. And then
Correct,
we built it out,
right?
and then people wanted to use it. Other firms wanted to use it. So we built it out on its own platform that you see now. You just go to a browser, log into Arrow, you're there.
But did you feel that Method CRM was a humongously complicated app to get started with? Method,
I'm trying to remember back that far.
right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big app. It does a lot of things, but it's empty when you first start. Well, I shouldn't say empty. Arrow, Method, both of them integrate to QuickBooks Online. It can pull in your client list and things. But from there, like with Method, then I needed those tools. I needed it more than it bothering me that it was complicated. It was complicated, but that complication gave me some advanced tools that I benefit from. So it was worth it for me. With Arrow, the hard part about starting up is doesn't matter if you're using paper checklists, which we used to use, Excel spreadsheets before we built Arrow. However you're writing up how you do things there, I think it's really important for firm owners to be intentional about their firm and owning that. That's not on the staff person. The staff person, you don't want to get a new client, delegate it to a staff person and just say, here it is, their books are a mess, go figure it out. You're not going to be as efficient or profitable that way. You really, if you can spell out, so what I'm talking about here is documenting your processes, what you do and how you do it. That's tedious and that's hard to set up whatever workflow tool you're going to use. So that's why we introduced the Arrow library to try to make all of this kind of work we're doing similarly easy to distribute between all of our firms.
The biggest I'll have the last word on this, Laura. The biggest advantage that we had in our firm of implementing Arrow workflow. And by the way, I think it would have been the same thing if I would have adopted Carbon or Jetpack workflow or any. And by the way, they're all great. It, I think Laura would agree with me. We don't care which workflow app you use. Just use one fully, like
Yes.
completely, like and make sure it actually helps you, not that it's not more work. So I think we both would agree that that would be our advice to accounting professionals. Now, different manufacturers, different software developers make it different. Like Aero has a lot of your personality, a lot of your partner's personality, a lot of the feedback people have given you. It's very pro advisor intensive. You know, not every accounting firm will like Aero workflow. Some people love Jetpack, some people love Carbon. I mean, they're just designed differently. At the end, what matters is which one can you use fully? But the biggest advantage to my firm was, I thought I had my stuff together. Like I thought I really knew all the procedures, but once I had to write them down, like there's no USB drive in my head where I can just go, boop, here you go, here's the procedure. Like when you have to write things down, you think about them differently because a lot of not a lot of clients have curveballs. They're just different circumstances, different situations, and when you write these things down, you probably also have to think about, okay, these are all the steps. However, if this huge curveball that happens to 25% of our clients, this is the procedure to fix that, whatever happens to be.
Mhm.
No check images available, or a lot of third-party company payments where they escrow the payments and you have to reconcile somewhere else, or a company that uses factoring, to get their
Right.
invoices paid. I mean, all these little things, in my head, I know how to react to them. But when you have 10 people on your staff doing bookkeeping and you want them to work fast, if you don't write them down, which yes is super tedious, if you write them down, you're going to find yourself explaining to them the same thing over and over and over and over, and there's no USB drive for our heads. So
No, and that's why you have to use tools like this to organize. I mean, it's really pretty early on that you will need a workflow management tool, because as you showed on a slide a second ago, Joe Woodard is telling us to standardize our processes in order to get to that point where we can grow and be profitable and be efficient and effective. In order to do that, you've got to have some tool, right? So for each client, you're going to have these services that you are going to provide for them, and you have sold the services. You now have got to deliver this quality. So this is all about really good customer service. And when you break it down and you have standard ways we do each of the services you just sold that client, then you can take each one, and when you need, just like you said, when you need to kind of customize it a little bit, you take your standard process and copy it for this new client, and then put in the little bit of things that are different about them. And it really helps if you do that front end work.
okay, so let me switch over to what I promised I would do, which is show you progress invoicing for uh, QuickBooks Online. And I know some people will be very excited about this, and some people are like, really, this is what you had me stay a little bit extra for? But this is, yeah, that's how the world works. Let me see. So here's Google Chrome. So by the way, they enabled it just for my QuickBooks file. This is not even in like public beta. This is only private beta. So you have to be invited to this, and they just added my file to it. So here's an estimate that contains 3 line items. There's my estimate date. When I go create an invoice, and ready? Laura, are you ready?
Yep,
When I create
ready.
an invoice, this thing shows up. How much do you want to invoice? So at this point, you can say, I want to invoice, 30% of each line, right? And then hit create
Mhm.
invoice. And what QuickBooks will do is exactly what QuickBooks Desktop does, is it multiplies, it has this weird do column here. I've never really seen this before, that says percent, right? And then it says quantity, it says 0.3, but I really can't modify it. So it does 2 things. One, it does it, but it also kind of identifies it as a progress invoice. So it has this extra column here. Hope you can see it okay. That actually shows you, whether it's a specific amount or a percent. So I can click save and close. And then I go back to the original estimate, and there's my linked transaction. What I don't see, and this is the first time I'm seeing it, by the way, what I don't see is, I don't see the estimate itself telling me how much has been invoiced so far. However, the invoice, let me go back to it. Invoice itself, okay, that's the same thing we saw before. Let me try to create now a second one. So let me go back to the same estimate. I'm seeing this for the first time again, so I'm not an expert in the subject matter. Okay, so it looks like it kind of shows you the last thing that it was done. So you can do the remaining total lines if you want to, or you can do custom amount for each line. And then once I do custom amount for each line, then it just leaves it blank for me to just pick what it is. So I can pick, $30 from here. I can pick $60 from here, and I can pick $20 from here.